I broke my back.
What do you mean by that?
My back is broken.
What do you mean, calm it down? It's a fight. Referees telling two fighters who want to fight to calm it down? He should calm down.
I saw he's like a clown in his show, man. He's not your guy.
Because Tyson Fury's back, and all you motherfuckers are under attack.
Look, Eddie Hearn can say all what he likes. Who gives a shit what Eddie Hearn says? It's garbage.
Are you off your tits? Have you been smoking something?
Can you let me retire and be happy? Please, just please.
Bombs away from the Bronx Bomber! Wanda! Let's go, baby! Let's go!
I'm through. They put somebody else up and give me an interview.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
You never give me a fair shake. HBO needs to fire you. You don't know shit about boxing. You ain't shit. You not shit.
I wish I was 50 years younger and I'd kick your ass.
I got dropped, man.
Are you kidding?
No. You won the fight.
OMG, I am so excited.
Any of you radio personalities think you want smoke? Call me Mr. Chimney. I want smoke.
Yes. What is up, MCR family? Another daily edition of the show live on YouTube, podcast form, iTunes, Spotify, radio, etc. I'm writing solo dolo. I'm Matt the Hipster Hunter. Find me, Matt Hunter, MCR, all platforms on social media. I have no Rob, no Gary, no Fu. They're all busy today. I understand. Plus, for Rob, it's like almost 1 a.m. over there in the UK. All of you guys in the UK listening right now, Leonard, PSK, I think MB's even from the UK. All of you guys, shout out to you guys being up this late. Kudos to you. And again, as you guys are saying in the chat right now, kudos to the really good and fun UK card that was on the zone today. We really didn't have that much combat sports offering on Saturday. Most of it was obviously last night, which I'll get to and I'll address and talk about, obviously, the Beterbiev-Gvozdyk fight, which was a really fun fight and a fantastic display of boxing ability from both men. But a little bit of a dry Saturday, but Ritson, Robbie Davies Jr. came in with a really gutsy performance from both guys. Really enjoyed it. Gary saying I can jump in, bro, if you want me to. Gary, I know you're busy with the kids right now. Don't worry about it, Gary. If you want to call in, Gary, of course, call in. Like I know, like maybe put on the show and getting on the mic is too much, Gary, but call in, of course. There's always room for you there. And because it's solo dolo, because it's kind of like a, how do I say it? It's going to be a different show than usual. I'm going to be covering a lot of other things than just boxing. I'm going to talk about MMA, UFC content a little bit as well. I may dip into some of the interactions I had on social media in regards to ethical journalism today, which I think is a really substantive and valuable conversation to have. I might address that on the back end of the show. But so how it's going to be, and plus I'm solo dolo, I'm going to be taking a lot more of you guys' questions and topics inside the chat. Notorious JP, Kama, Gary, PSK, MP, everyone. I'm going to be taking you guys' questions and topics in the chat far more often, so don't worry about it. How I'm going to do it is I'm going to kind of break down each topic by itself, and then after each topic, go into you guys' questions and topics. So, for example, I'm going to talk about Beterbiev and Gvozdyk first, and then whatever questions you have in the chat or call in maybe, I'll get to those, and then I'll go to the next topic and move, and so on and so forth, right? For example, probably going to talk about Leonard Sterling's question in the chat after the Beterbiev-Gvozdyk card breakdown, where Jamal Charlo really accepted an offer to have a one fight on DAZN. He claimed that he's his own promoter, says Leonard Sterling in the chat. Definitely going to address that question after I address the Gvozdyk Beterbiev card, which, chef's kiss, amazing. So good. And I was wrong. I was deeply wrong on this fight. Not deeply wrong on it, but I was definitely wrong in how sure I was of my pick. I'll be honest. I was really positively sure of myself that Gvozdyk was the better boxer, that he had enough power to hurt Beterbiev, who we've seen get hurt, even though he has great recovery ability. And Beterbiev is a little bit of a one-trick pony. If you can take away that one trick, maybe his game unravels. And honestly, I mean, there's obviously parts of the fight, and I'm obviously going to address it way more tomorrow with the full panel, Rob, Gary, Fu. but this is just my reactions, my thoughts, only my opinions about the fight. I felt like Gvozdyk at times showed the right tactics to have against a guy like Beterbiev. Moving laterally, and you have to throw combinations while you're moving laterally. And on top of that, the second you sort of pick an angle and get off that angle, and you throw in a combination, and you go in the right or left, then you have to move forward. Every time Gvozdyk would throw a jab, move off to the side, throw a combination, and then advance and push Beterbiev back, Beterbiev had a hard time spinning and then adjusting to that pressure. If Beterbiev just had to adjust to the spin and then Gvozdyk was still retreating, Beterbiev actually, to his credit, was able to spin with him and charge after him quite efficiently after like round 2 or 3, right? And, I mean, that to me was shocking, how quickly Beterbiev was able to adjust to the lateral movement of Gvozdyk. On top of that, the body work of both guys I thought was fantastic, was the right game plan to have. Gvozdyk with the really nice right hand under the guard of Beterbiev. I thought that was a beautiful shot. He was going to time and time again. He just couldn't have an effect on Beterbiev that I think that he was looking for. Beterbiev, to his credit, was landing that right hand from mid-range to the solar plex and to the mid-range, as Andre Ward was pointing out on the telecast, and it was highly, highly effective. And clearly there was a significant power disparity. Every time Beterbiev was clubbing him with shots, you could see the effect. You can see the will sort of drain from Gvozdyk with each flurry, each sort of tie-up with Beterbiev, who was clearly the stronger guy as well. I was just blown away by Beterbiev's overall effectiveness here, because at times I felt like he has been ineffective with his style, but with this one, I thought he was largely effective. He knew that it was a long game and that he was looking for the finish. He wasn't looking for a points decision. Obviously, I think Gvozdyk, due to his style, his volume, he was able to accumulate rounds early on, and that I'm so glad they put instant replay in for this commission, Pennsylvania. I think it's Pennsylvania Commission. Yes, it is. Because that knockdown in the first round was atrocious, and thank God they reversed that. However, clearly, Beterbiev's boxing ability was far better than I think we all previously thought. I think his ability to sort of block and parry shots was better than previously thought. Again, the lateral movement, or at least the adjustment to lateral movement, was just far better than I think any of us could ever think, right? I don't think any of us went into that fight going, Beterbiev has the boxing ability to beat Gvozdyk. It was more of that, maybe he's the aggressor, the power. But, yeah, he had that. But honestly, if he didn't really adjust tactically to Gvozdyk and his lateral movement from a pure boxing technique perspective, not just bull rush through it perspective, there's no way he would have won this fight. There's no way he could have really crossed that distance and that range threshold and get on the inside of Gvozdyk as well as he did. And then again, like I said, I think the overall defensive ability of Beterbiev was fairly and largely underrated. I want to sort of point out some things in the chat because I haven't really been reading. I've been talking. Jonathan Vickland. I'm gonna say I don't think it's true, but I love the tie-in here saying you could clearly see Beterbiev's training with George St. Pierre paid off in round 1. I like that. That's true. I mean, I get your point, but that's true. What else? Rob in the chat saying new train driver Matt. Yeah, guys, I'm on the hype train now. Beterbiev beats Bivol, without a doubt. He's clearly the number 1 guy at light heavyweight, and it goes without saying. What else? Gus Sandoval. Shout out to Gus. Gus, longtime listener and supporter, saying most everyone picked Gvozdyk, including myself. Beterbiev box better than I expected. What else? Let me see. Sort of talking about the ability to sort of hit or hurt, I should say, Beterbiev. Kama in the chat saying, I think Callum Johnson is just a very hard hitter. You're probably right about that. Saying, I think we can all agree Johnson is no boxer compared to Gvozdyk, but in pure punching power, it looked like Johnson probably hits harder pound for pound, so to speak. Gus also saying Beterbiev showed new wrinkles to his game. Absolutely agree. Notorious JP saying AB's jab took over also. I don't know if it's... Obviously, from a strategic standpoint, yes, the jab for Beterbiev started having an effect down the line in the fight. Tactically, as in, how did he do that? I need to probably watch it back. I'll be honest, I've watched this fight 3 times this morning. I didn't watch it last night. I was out last night at the movies. Sorry, guys. I made plans without realizing the fights were on Friday. These things happen. But I watched it 3 times this morning, and every time I watch it, there's new things I see from both guys. Again, I know a lot of the praise is going to be heaped on Beterbiev, obviously speaking, but Gvozdyk, I think, did quite well in his own right. I think he did everything we wanted him to do, except, again, I think, switching back to my very first point about this fight, the way to beat Beterbiev seems, because Gvozdyk did it at times, was when you move laterally and throw combination as you move laterally, the second you get to that off angle of your opponent, you need to press him, especially Beterbiev, obviously, because Beterbiev is going to be turning so quickly with you that if you're just spinning out and you're just sort of retreating or just staying at the status quo distance, Beterbiev's with you. So you're not, as the fight wears on, Gvozdyk wasn't getting an off angle of Beterbiev and landing that right hand to the body anymore because Beterbiev was turning with him each and every time. And the way to sort of adjust to that, if you're the guy moving laterally, is when you move laterally, also take an instep. Move in. But the problem is that Gvozdyk didn't want to move in with Beterbiev and press him. He didn't feel comfortable there, obviously speaking. But the way to honestly beat Beterbiev is to get him moving backwards. It has to be, because he is one of the best pressure fighters in boxing, right? Maybe that's a conversation for a different time, and co-host that listening, Gary, Rob, Fu, for tomorrow's show, maybe be thinking about this. Who are the best pressure fighters right now in boxing? Beterbiev has to be high up there. It's him and Sean Porter, right, guys? As some of the best pressure boxers or best pressure fighters in all of boxing. And I don't know if even a guy like Bivol is going to be able to keep that pressure at bay. On top of that, get Beterbiev going backwards, because that's not really Bivol's game, in my honest opinion. Quickly, I'm going to move on to some of the rest of the fights on this card and then take whatever questions and topics in the chat. Maybe take some calls. And guys that are calling in, if you want to call in now and just talk about this fight, you can do so. If you want, stay on the line, and I'll get to you for other topics. That's completely fine as well. So I think that's JP, Santiago. I think I see you two there. Don't worry if you guys want to come on and talk about the Davies-Ritson fight or Conor McGregor's alleged rape charge, the second alleged rape charge in Ireland, which we're going to get to. And obviously the UFC Boston card. You can always jump in and out, and it won't be an issue. Because I'm solo dolo. I don't care. It's Saturday. There's no real fights on tonight. It's just this, guys. Get hyped. But Luis Collazo losing against Kuzatilo Abakadorov. This was a fun fight. Similar vein to, I think, a lot of the fights this weekend. Good inside work from both guys. Collazo, though, just clearly older, clearly slower to the draw, and that affected him down the stretch. I think he was hoping that his power was going to take over, which at times, especially in the mid-fight, it looked like it was going to do. But Abakadorov just kind of just weathered the storm and kept outboxing him and winning rounds and won a decision. Or technical decision, because obviously there was the cuts at the end. But, even without the cuts, he was on his way to a point decision just because he was outboxing Collazo. Collazo, sort of connecting to Beterbiev, was not adjusting to the lateral movement at all of Abakadorov. So I'm curious, is this really the sign that the end is coming of Collazo's career? Is he now over the hill fully? Because his last fight, he didn't look this slow, in my opinion. And Abrikadorov, a guy that young, undefeated, not the best amateur pedigree, but a good amateur pedigree. Undefeated, obviously, resume. Beats Collazo, sort of weathers the storm. Is he going to be now the IBF mandatory? Is he going to be now in line to fight Earl Spence? And is he going to fight Earl Spence in the next year or so? It's a possibility. And maybe this is Top Rank's gamble in a weird way to try to get the IBF and now WBC belt on their side. I don't know. Weird situation here with maybe the networks and the future fight for Abrikadorov because of the IBF eliminator status of this fight. But I thought he looked good against a faded but clearly still talented top 15, top 20 welterweight in Luis Collazo. Moving on, just mentioning briefly some of these undercard fights. Josue Vargas beating Johnny Rodriguez. He looked good, but I expected a little bit more, to be honest, but he dominated. I just expect a little more power from Josue Vargas at this point in time. I expect him to sort of grow into some power. Doesn't seem to be at this point in time. Michael Seals, though, picking up a nice win. Obviously not going to be, a future champion, but that was a great left hook knockout. Joseph Adorno picked up a good TKO win against Damian Sosa. Julian Rodriguez looked really good as well against Leonardo Dorino, though Dorino is like 17-16-3. That means almost nothing to me. It means nothing to me. Jamie Adorno picked up a win as well, and Sonny Kanto picked up a win as well on the top-ranked card. Let me see. Questions and topics in the chat. Guys, just for I may take some calls. Write in all caps. If you want me to address your point, your question, your topic, whatever, write in all caps in the live chat. Question, topic, whatever it is, right? Sort of to give me some category here. And then in regular caps, write out your question topic right after it, please. It makes it really easy for me to see it out of all of the great comments in the live chat. I'm going to go take some calls really briefly because I want to get some other guys' opinions about the Beterbiev-Gvozdyk fight. Going out to Santiago in LA. Santiago, what were your thoughts on the main event of last night's top-ranked card?
Well, outside of a very lackluster preliminary card where a lot of the guys looked like guys we could have probably taken on, the main card itself was pretty good. And you know what? Just like you, dude, God, I was so wrong about everything I said regarding this fight with both men. All of my points were completely in reverse when you really look at it in hindsight, because as I was watching the fight and as I was, re-listening to the show last night as the fight was coming on, I was listening to your points about the fact that Beterbiev was a specialist in what he does, and the fact that Gvozdyk has a bit more versatility because he does a little more of everything, which is why it leads to a little bit more thought that he could have more growth. But to me, I think that might have been what did him in. That he might have been trying to do a little too much and engaged in things with Beterbiev that he shouldn't have. There were times in the fight where he was kind of laying on top of Beterbiev, and like you said, when Beterbiev did that quick turnaround, given the angle, he knows what to do. It's his specialty. He knows exactly how he needs to maneuver in that kind of position. And that really ended up becoming the tail of the fight, seeing just how well he used his style to his advantage, not the deficiencies that it is because he is a specialist. And I feel like I was still right that we have seen right now the best of Beterbiev today, but I think that his ceiling got higher. I think that because he was able to add wrinkles to his own game, we saw things in him, at least I saw things in him that I was a little bit surprised. There were moments in the fight where he'd have his hands at chest level, ready to either shoot up, shoot down, or parry a punch. And the next thing you know, he flips a shot and comes straight back with a counter. And it's that kind of wrinkle that really improves a person's fighting. What were your thoughts about the adjustments he made to his own style in the fights?
I mean, again, I liked how you said, like, his ceiling is now far higher than previously thought. I think, you know, you always get this now with this sort of weight range of fighters that whoever is now like the hot guy of the week is going to be mentioned with this retired fighter, Andre Ward. But I saw a lot of comments about like Andre Ward versus Beterbiev would be a really interesting fight. And obviously, like, that's not going to happen. But in a hypothetical world where we get a Andre Ward, or even like a prime Andre Ward, against a highly aggressive Artur Beterbiev, a specialist, but a specialist that is improving his overall game. Oh, that's a fun fight. Absolutely a fun matchup to imagine. And to overall, like, to bring it back to the point of Beterbiev, that just shows that the opinion of him is rapidly changing. You know, we thought of him as a heavy hitter, a knockout artist, but whenever somebody is just classified as a knockout artist, that, while it's a good thing, is still putting them in a box. And I feel like Beterbiev has...
It's like being typecast, right?
Absolutely. It's being typecast. Great example, great sort of analogy. But I think it's clearly not apt anymore for Beterbiev. I think Beterbiev is a far better boxer than previously thought, and that means, you know, the idea that Bivol cannot box him, I don't know if that's a claim that people can make anymore. Gvozdyk should have been able to box him, and even though he kind of did, it was ineffective in the long term in the fight. And I feel like in Bivol's case, that might be the same situation.
Yeah, Bivol comes off more as like a passive boxer puncher. He needs the fight to be at a pace that he's comfortable and maintain. And Beterbiev, to me, I feel like if he keeps this the way it is right now and adds to it, he could probably also stop Bivol, in my opinion, because I feel like Bivol's more of a mid-range fighter. Like, he's not gonna try to engage in the inside. Like, if he does lean, he's not gonna try to do anything. He might try to push him off. But I think that in that instance, you'll see Bivol inadvertently create the space that Beterbiev will need to throw his own shots. So I would definitely think that right now, Beterbiev is probably the guy, and it's because he's a specialist that he has that edge, in my opinion.
I agree. Santiago, I'm going to come back to you on later topics if you want to stick around. Is that okay?
That's fine.
Thank you, Santiago. We're going to JP in Long Beach. JP, what's up?
Oh, man, great fight last night. So, Matt, I was in several email threads with friends, you guys included, right? Mm-hmm. So I think I was the only dude in our text thread, that picked Beterbiev by stoppage. So I picked Beterbiev by stoppage for one simple reason. It's a thing called fight psychology, right? And this rule also applies to my Wilder Fury theory. There's no more, and this is just from being in regular fights, but this is just common in every man. If you know that when I hit you, it hurts a lot, and you know that you cannot hurt me, that is really scary and hard to overcome. And I believe that's what we seen last night, and that what made it an easy pick for me. Andre Ward was touching on it throughout the fight, basically alluding to this being a little brother versus big brother matchup. These guys have an existing relationship. You know, they know each other from the amateurs that came through the same program or whatever it is. And when you do stuff like that and you're working out every day together, you know who the man is. And I believe back then it was like Arthur was the man, and these guys cannot hurt him. The Gvozdyks and all the other guys who were around there, they couldn't hurt him. Arthur knew that, and it continued to this day. And I believe what you've seen in the ring is Gvozdyk, you know, he fought, but he fought not to die on the sword in the ring. He took 3 knees. You know, he didn't die on the sword because he didn't want to be unconscious. But he came out and fought, and you seen Teddy Atlas trying to speak to the man's soul throughout the thing. He said, hey, he made sure he told him it wasn't a knockdown, and Teddy was saying, you're letting yourself flail. You're letting yourself. You know, he didn't say you are. He's saying you letting yourself, which speaks to the psychology of the fighter. But Teddy was getting on my fucking nerves, man. He would not get out the ring. I mean, Teddy was in the ring to the point where, the ref was having to tell him, Teddy, you got to go. But I just think it was simple fight psychology last night, man. It was little brother versus big brother. And it's like when little brother says, we ain't little anymore. We ain't little no more. And just because he's had enough and he wants to show big bro that, it's not like it used to be. But it still is like it used to be in that case. And I'll add that to my Wilder Fury psychology. It's simply put, Wilder goes in there knowing, hey, man, every time I touch you, it's going to hurt. And it's like, what's Fury going to do? Be slicker? Maneuver more? Sure, he could, but he knows that's his only option. And it's nothing like overcoming mentally a man that just hits so much harder than you. That's scary as hell. It makes your adrenaline race, and your margin for error is really small. And I think that's what Gvozdyk had to overcome in there last night, and that's a lot of times insurmountable. The question I posed to you guys, and Joe somehow pulled some fucking crazy names out his ass. I asked, name 2 fighters who got knocked out and then came back to beat the fighter who knocked them out. You got to dig pretty good. They're out there. I'm sure they're out there.
Yeah, they obviously are.
They don't come off the top.
It's not common.
Yeah,
it's not common.
Right, there's a couple out there, but I think that's a good question, man. But that's just what I think last night. I also seen like that lead right stab to the body. He knew that was just taking the life out of him, And you seen Beterbiev like bouncing around, like I can actually. His swag was saying, I can outbox you. You already know this. That's what everything was saying about him. And so, yeah, that stab to the body, he just like, man, I'm going to beat up my little bro. He already know what it is. So, but very calculated pressure, man. Like, you rarely see a pressure fighter who can be out-slicked, and the guy could have better hand speed and all the things Gvozdyk had in his advantage, but it was so calculated, and he was able to keep his composure, even at times when Gvozdyk was getting off. So this guy's going to be hard to beat. That's my call, Matt.
Thank you, JP. Oh, quickly. Quick prediction. Beterbiev and Dimitri Bivol. Who wins?
Oh, I got Beterbiev. The only person I see beating Beterbiev is like if Ward comes back. If Ward comes back, man, and I think Ward was watching closely last night. We all know Ward is still training for whatever reason, staying in shape. There's something on the horizon, maybe Canelo. But I'm thinking the only guy that beats him is Ward, just because he's able to make those kind of adjustments.
Thanks for the call, JP. Subscribe to co-host of the show and contributor, obviously, on the website. But he's busy with the kiddos. Going solo dolo parent as the wife's out of town. Gary in Dallas. What's up?
My wife's actually in L.A.
Oh, nice.
I was highly impressed by Beterbiev. I didn't. Everyone was saying it was a 50-50 fight. I didn't really see. I thought it was a good fight, competitive fight. Beterbiev had a solid make it fight. I just didn't see any way in which he could win. So I didn't think he was going to even be the harder hitter necessarily. And I thought Gvozdyk was another level when it came to a pure boxer. So I was like, there's no way Beterbiev can really win this fight. Boy, was I wrong. I mean, I still had Gvozdyk competitive on the scores going into the last round or so. But you could see Beterbiev was just breaking him down.
As Max Kellerman would say, the story of the fight was on Beterbiev's side.
Yeah. I think I had Beterbiev up maybe a round going into the round with all the knockdowns. But Gvozdyk was in the fight from a scoring standpoint. A lot of the early rounds were close. The 8th round might have been the best round of his fight. Then the 9th round he got knocked down, and then the 10th round he got knocked out. I feel like the same way when Ramirez beat Hooker, like, wow, Ramirez is a lot better than I thought. There's a lot more to Ramirez than just a swarming guy. There's a lot more to Beterbiev than I thought there was.
Agreed.
I thought he was just going to be simply outboxed. And he was. I mean, Gvozdyk is the better boxer, and I think Bivol will be the better boxer. But, I mean, Beterbiev will just break Bivol down. I think he knocks him out quicker. I say 7 or 8 because Bivol's small, and Bivol's also a guy who likes to stay in the mid-range, and he's just not going to have the power. Because, like, look, Gvozdyk has better power than Bivol, and Gvozdyk couldn't keep Beterbiev off of him. Bivol's not going to have any chance to keep him off of him. Bivol, if he doesn't get knocked out brutally, if he doesn't get knocked out in one shot, it could be a long, brutal beatdown. I don't see how Bivol. And Rob's going to call me a sellout now because I picked Bivol last week.
I cannot wait for Rob's little fucking like triumphal march around MCR Studios tomorrow on a Sunday show when he just gloats about he's the only one that picked it right. But here's the thing: he's going to pick Bivol, and we know it.
Yeah,
because he's an Eddie Hearn guy. So I mean, come on. He's got to run with that train. And we're going to pick Beterbiev, and that is still a fantastic fight. So I don't even care if he wins out in that one and Bivol wins. That's a fantastic fight. Like, this light heavyweight division is fun. I'm hyped.
I think Bivol, I'm with Rob on Bivol, right? Like, I think Bivol's really good. I just think, like, Beterbiev is too much, right? Like, you know,
this might sound weird.
Back in the 90s, it's like there's other guys with skills, but you can't stop what he does. He's just going to knock you over.
This might sound weird because it's obviously I do want to see Beterbiev Bivol next. That's the fight. That's the next fight, right? But I'm now really intrigued to see how like a Gvozdyk Bivol goes down. Because I was so on the Gvozdyk is clearly the most complete guy in the division. He beat Adonis Stevenson. He's the number one guy. I thought he was going to beat Beterbiev, so therefore I was just going to solidify his case. But now, I don't know where even Gvozdyk sort of ranks with the young guys of the division. I want to see him now be thrown into Bivol too. So it's just, now all these matchups are far more interesting than previously thought in my mind.
Yeah, my opinion hasn't changed on Gvozdyk. I mean, Gvozdyk was a little sloppy at times, but I thought Gvozdyk did what he had to do. It just wasn't enough. It
just didn't work.
Didn't have anything. Yeah, it just didn't work. Like, Beterbiev is better than we all thought.
Well, let's go down that sort of that path. Okay, Gvozdyk's game plan was obviously use lateral movement, use the jab, sneak in body shots, wear him down, and over rounds, I'm going to win rounds and make this a long con, and hopefully the body work, hopefully the activity from myself wins out. Clearly, that didn't work. Why was there no plan B? And if do you even think there was a plan B? I don't remember seeing one really implemented. And moving forward, how does he develop that plan B in your mind? Because he has to have one.
Well, I mean, if you can't outbox him from the mid-range or from the outside, if you can't keep him off of you, he's all yours, right? So, like, plan A would be to move laterally. Plan B would be like, what, to backpedal? That's not how Gvozdyk fights us. Now he has to change, you know what I'm saying? That's not how he is. So you can't fight him on the inside. If you can't maintain the range in the mid-range, what else are you going to do? I mean, stylistically, you can't beat this guy. And that's why, like, when it was first over, I said, let's do a rematch. That was a great fight. Let's do it again. Then I thought about it. I said, well, what's he going to do differently? I don't know. And obviously there are better boxing minds than me who may have seen things. I don't see what he's going to do differently. Like, I thought he fought the way he was supposed to fight. It just wasn't good enough.
I largely agree.
And when JP said, when you get knocked out, you very rarely come back. The old adage is, if you get knocked out the first time, you'll get knocked out the second time, only quicker. Although in that weight class, Kovalev got knocked out by Alvarez and came back and outclassed him.
True. Yeah, but I think somebody brought up Pac-Man and Kovalev. I mean, those are Hall of Famers, guys. Like Gvozdyk's one of those guys where these are the sort of moments that define what he is. Does he come back and win those fights or not? But Gary, anything else? We're going to move on.
Oh, real quick. You asked if Collazo was done. I just wanted to address that real quick. Collazo looked old to me against Samuel Vargas, except people overlooked it because it was a fun scrap where they slugged it out. But it shouldn't have been that close, right? Like, Luis Collazo shouldn't have to slug it out with Vargas. He should be able to outbox him and beat him up. So that was kind of like the first sign to me. I mean, I don't think Collazo is done, like he sucks, but I think he's done at a world-class level. Like, I think he can be what Robert Guerrero and Paulie Malignaggi was in the second half of their career. It's like, okay, you need a name. You want to give Virgil Ortiz a name at 147, a legitimate 147 pounder? Give him Collazo.
I agree.
You want to give Brooke, you want to bring Brooke back against a legitimate 147? Give him Collazo. You want to give Hooker a 147 pounder? Give him Collazo. You'll be confident that he beats him, and Collazo will show well. He'll be tough. He may go the distance, but he's going to lose. So I don't think he's done like he's trash. I just think he's done at the highest level.
Yeah, I largely agree with you. Thank you. Obviously, guys that have called in, you guys can come back in. I'm going to talk about the Davies-Ritson card and that for a bit. And obviously, if you guys want to call in and talk about other subjects in the boxing world, again, it's Solo Dolo Day on Saturday with no fights on. I literally can talk about anything. Gary, you want to talk about puckle guns or whatever you want to talk about? Go for it, man. Like, I don't care. This is the day, guys. You want to get me on a tangent about bullshit? Saturday shows are the shows to do it, especially with no fights. But quickly, I'm going to go to some of you guys' questions and topics in the chat because there were some good ones. Let me see if I can go find them really fast. Somewhere around here. It's somewhere, guys. I'm going to find it. The first, all caps question or topic I see. There we go. Disabled sports. Question: do you think that ESPN should put MMA cards as a lead-in to boxing cards, or vice versa, to boost viewership? Because Weidman versus Reyes started at the same time as Gvozdyk versus Beterbiev. I definitely do think that they need to organize their combat sports sort of pairing of top-rank cards and UFC cards a little bit better. Because think about it. When the idea of moving a card to, a big card to a Friday is supposed to free up the Saturday for something else that you either don't want to compete with or you just want to free it up, right? But no, we had two of the biggest events of the weekend move to Friday to compete again with each other. When one of them could have been Saturday, when there's nothing tonight, it was weird. And I think overall, because obviously the way UFC is you have an ESPN prelims and then the main cards on ESPN Plus, right? I wouldn't mind sort of a vice versa lead-in somehow. ESPN Plus, sort of, I don't know, boxing lead-in to a ESPN Plus UFC main card, but from a different city, different venue. Obviously, you just switch over the telecast somehow, and that'd be interesting. Way to sort of cross-promote your combat sports. But then again, you would have to get the UFC and Top Rank overall to work together in some fashion, and that might be a little more difficult than I think some people might believe. Bob Arum and Dana White don't get along that well. Dana White doesn't get along with anyone in boxing, except for, it seems, the PBC conglomerate. And even then, that's a tenuous position. Moving on. PSK question: isn't Beterbiev 34? How can he really improve? Or does Beterbiev simply have Gvozdyk's number like he did in the amateurs? Obviously, the second sort of point you made, does he just simply have Gvozdyk's number from the amateurs? That could entirely be true. But I think that's entirely separate from the other point, right? Beterbiev could have Gvozdyk's number, but the question of could Beterbiev still improve, how can he really improve still, is, I think, separate from that conversation. It could be tied, obviously, together, but I think they're not necessarily tied. They're mutually exclusive topics. And I think there is such a thing as late bloomers in the sport. Obviously, Beterbiev had a long amateur career, but I would say he looks fine. I think he is improving from fight to fight. So as long as we are seeing that steady improvement from fight to fight, and he's healthy, he's knocking out guys, has a perfect knockout ratio, clearly is the number one guy in the division, I think the sky is the limit. Maybe he's just a late bloomer. That is, again, a thing. And even though he's not really technically a late bloomer, because, again, he had a very long amateur career, he could be one of those guys that still has longevity in the sport somehow, and it kind of seems like that. But who knows? What else do we have? Any other questions? No, I don't see anyone else doing the all caps questions or topics. Dwayne saying, did I miss the ethical journalism segment? No. What were you going to talk about? I'm going to talk about promoters compensating media members for travel, for lodging, for access, for content, etc. And just my run-ins today and the last several weeks with it. If you want to find maybe some more info out while the show is going, obviously just go to my Twitter profile, Matt Hunter MCR on Twitter, and it's right there. Like, it's not that far down. If you just scroll down, you're going to see what I'm honestly talking about. But I'll get to it as well. Cam saying, topic, American War of Independence. Can you be a little more specific there, Kama? A little bit more. You need a little more to go on than just a war that lasted, for 7 years? I don't know. Digressing. Davies-Ritson versus Robbie Davies Jr. God, I mean, first off, credit to both guys, because I know, like, I'm going to say some things about both guys here that might be seen as hating, but I want to preface that all with both guys are fun action fighters. There is a massive market for guys like them. They're obviously huge regional stars. Not huge regional stars, but they're regional stars in a way, obviously. And clearly they have fan bases. And clearly they put on fun fights. However, I think clearly both guys are not on any path towards a world level sort of status. But this was a fun fight. And even like the 12th round, that was insane. I mean, there was that moment where I think Ritson was coming off the ropes, and he threw like a 20-piece or like 15-piece combination at Robbie Davies Jr. and he ate it and just pressed him forward. Ritson won the fight, but in my opinion, I thought he won that. It's one of those fights where, yes, he won it, but man, he got beat up in the process. I think he looked worse for it. And maybe the narrative of, oh, this improving Ritson, oh, he's back, oh, he's going to be this force. No, I think we know what he is. He clearly is a regional club level like main eventer. And there is, again, a huge market for that. And again, he provides really fun, entertaining scraps. But that's really all I have to say about it. You know, I don't think both guys or either guy really progresses and wins. You know, Rob in the chat saying food for Taylor, progress winner. I absolutely agree. You know, like, and I think, again, there's a market for them. I don't want to be disparaging in any way, but that's just where their placement is. And I think it's quite obvious now. The narrative of Ritson rebounding is only to a point. And we should be aware of his limitations, Robbie Davies Jr. limitations, and how, regardless, though, they can still produce fun fights. Ted Cheeseman lost against... No, wait, hold on. What was the official one? Yeah, Ted Cheeseman lost against Scott Fitzgerald, but this was controversial. I did not have this, like, on fully aware. Like, my attention was set on it. So I'm going to go back and watch it, score it. I know there was some dispute about whether or not Cheeseman won this fight. Be that as it may. Savannah Marshall picked up a win against Ashley Curry. Shout out to Ashley Curry's shorts missing the C in Curry. That really bugged me the entire fight. But Savannah Marshall, please stop fighting people that have a below 500 record. We don't need to see that anymore. You're talented, obviously. Fight other talented fighters, please. Martin Bacoli Alunga picked up a win against Kevin Johnson, and damn, did he beat him up in the process. But Kevin Johnson looking older and older. I really don't want to see him fight anymore. And I'll be honest, the rest of the guys in the card, I really didn't know that well. So I'm going to wait for Rob for tomorrow's show for the full breakdown on the rest of this card. Apologies. Quickly. PSK question: would a taller Ranger fighter be able to outbox Beterbiev from range, a la Benavidez or Callum Smith moving up? And callers, if you guys want to call in now, actually, hold on. Callers, I'm going to hold off on you for a second. I'm going to run through these UFC topics and then go to you guys, okay? I hope that's fine. I'm going to answer some of these questions. This one question in the topic, in the live chat, and then run through these topics. PSK question: how can the Ritson? Wait, where was I looking at? Nah, sorry, PSK. Ritson Davies Jr. How can be in a position to fight Progress Taylor next? That's a big rumor. Ritson versus 140 winner in stadium fight. I don't really understand the question. Like, how can it be from a commission or like a sanctioning body standpoint? Like, how can that happen? Or I'm a little bit confused about the question here. Excuse me. Let's go to these UFC topics. Let's talk about the giant elephant in the room, the Conor McGregor second sexual assault investigation in Ireland this year. The news, I think, first broke in an Irish outlet or newspaper. I forget the exact newspaper. But New York Times were the first one to report it, that it was Conor McGregor, which we all sort of assumed. And look, we had this news come out before a UFC event, and we didn't have anyone ask questions to Dana White. It took 6 months for anyone at a UFC event to ask Dana White a question regarding the first Conor McGregor sexual assault allegation. And I'm not surprised, but I expect more from media and from people that I have seen and worked with. This is, come on. It's an easy question. Just get out of the way, and just ask it. Dana White's not going to give you an answer. Just ask it. That's the easy part, about asking that question. Dana White in this times get no comment and move on. And you move about your day, because that's all we can do. All we can do is bring light to it, that this is happening, that it seems the institutions of power for the industry don't seem to care, a la the UFC, a la commissions, etc. And be that as it may, we should still bring light to it, regardless of maybe not having an actual effect on the UFC not working with Conor McGregor anymore, because of course they're not going to do that. Floyd Mayweather went to prison for domestic violence when he had a long rap sheet of domestic violence, and he is still the number one most talked about boxer in the industry, right? So I'm not saying it's right, but there is little that I think I specifically can do, or that we, this very small collective here of MCR, can do. But at the very least, just keep spreading awareness, keep talking about it, and hopefully something, public awareness, public pressure does have a sort of a snowball going down a hill effect at times. And it starts with people just bringing awareness to situations like this, and it seems like no one really wants to. But yeah, Conor McGregor charged with a second sexual assault and rape charge. They're fucking despicable, man. God. How do you have this many run-ins with the law? I don't understand it. I truly don't. Moving on. Last topic of the day, and we're going to go to callers. Take any more questions and topics. PSK, I'm going to swing back to your question after I break down the UFC card. And we're going to wrap up the show. And after that, obviously tomorrow, regular show, 2 p.m., full panel. The Joker review with Anthony Walker is edited. It's done. It's in the can. It's coming out either tonight or tomorrow. Also, the El Camino review is recorded, needs to be edited, and then it will be posted as well. Plus, Carnival Row review needs to be done. It Chapter 2, because I saw that last night. I will review that. All for Trending Now Network, for those that want to see content that's not combat sports. It's more movie, in TV-related content, pop culture-related content. Go over to Trending Now Network on YouTube. But UFC on ESPN 6, Dominic Reyes versus Chris Weidman happened yesterday as well. And, man, it's a sad day to see a guy like Chris Weidman, or any fighter, even though maybe Chris Weidman isn't the greatest human being of all time, but to see any sort of guy that was a champion for a while, that made a legacy for himself, have a long, sad run to the bottom, it seems. I think he's now 2-5 in his last fights, and I don't know where Chris Weidman goes from here. I believe, this was his, similar to Luke Rockhold, this was his Hail Mary shot. Go up to light heavyweight, cut the weight, or don't have to worry about cutting the weight, and you can sort of get the fast track to John Jones. He comes up here against Dominic Reyes and gets knocked down the first round viciously. Rough for him. Yair Rodriguez, and by the way, Dominic Reyes should obviously fight John Jones next. Clearly. That's without a doubt. Sorry, Johnny Walker, Corey Anderson winner, unless it's Corey Anderson. Even then, Dominic Reyes should probably just get the fight first, let's be honest. Yair Rodriguez defeating Jeremy Stevens in a fantastic scrap. Rodriguez's overall kickboxing ability, his overall use of range, distance, feints was just too much for Stevens. Stevens, though, had a great third-round rally after a 10-8 round in the second round, but was not able to do enough. Greg Hardy cheated mid-fight with an inhaler, and his fight was declared no contest. Fucking hilarious, and the irony of that goes without saying. Shout out to Joe Lozon picking up a big win. Macy Barber picking up a good win as well. Darren Stewart, Charles Rosa, Sean Woodson, Marley McCann, Randy Costa, Sean Brady, Brandon Allen, and Tanner Bowser all picking up wins in the undercard. Really fun UFC card on ESPN if you guys want to go check it out. And again, Dominic Reyes versus John Jones next is the obvious fight, and Chris Weidman should probably think about hanging it up since he's been knocked out in all of his recent losses. Let's move out to callers, guys, and wrap up the show. Again, you guys talk about the Davies-Ritson stuff, Conor McGregor, UFC Boston, or anything else. It's solo dolo. Guys, questions in the live chat, go for it. Just all caps, questions, all caps, topics, then write out your shit, and I will get to it. And by the way, circling back to PSK's question about how can they do that in terms of the Ritson-Davis winner versus Prograis Taylor in terms of credibility, it would be a voluntary first defense. And if it's Taylor, it's a UK versus UK showdown. They can absolutely excuse that away. Come on. But in terms of credibility, it's a fight. It's a fight against a guy that's a top 20, 30 name. It's not the greatest thing, but we've seen worse, I will say. There's been far worse, in my opinion. Let's go to callers. Gary, I think, wants to talk some more. Gary, what's up, man?
The Lewis-Ritson fight.
Yes.
Lewis-Ritson is rated by the WBA. If I understand how they work, he would fight. He wouldn't fight Prograis Taylor winner because that's the super champ.
He would fight Barrios.
Fight my boy.
Yeah, for Barrios.
Which I think Barrios, if it came to it, and that's assuming Barrios wins the rematch or Akhmadov, right? But if Barrios won, I think he should go over there and fight him over there. I think that would be a fun fight. I think it's a fight he would win and look good in. And he's just not going to have a lot of big heyday because, no offense, but he has absolutely zero personality, right? And his style just isn't something that's going to translate to ever him being a star. So, why not? It seems like Ritson has a big fan base, a big following over there. Why not go over there, fly over there, and go fight him in his home? I think he wins it.
Agreed. And quickly, Gary, actually, let me jump right back to you, okay? I forgot, I did want to bring up this topic, okay? There's a whole media, journalistic ethics aspect to it. Not to this, but something else. And just something that I just want to talk about briefly I talked about it briefly on social media, but I feel like it's something that I should bring to this platform because this is where most of you guys know me and find my content is right here. But for those that aren't in the know, brief sort of synopsis of what I'm talking about. I have it on good authority that Fansided MMA, fansided.com, and their editor, specifically Amy Kaplan, has taken compensation from one championship to travel to Asia numerous times to cover their events. And we got into it today, as expected, guys. You know me. And as far as from what I can tell and from what I have talked to her about, both in private conversation and public conversation, I have not seen anything to really disprove that statement, to be honest. She has sent me some documentation, but nothing that proves her statement, or multiple statements that are contradictory of each other. And statements as in where the funding is that she got to go to Tokyo, Hawaii, and other places for one championship. And all that, again, allegedly on her dime. And look, when you are a website that at the same time this is happening, you send out emails to your contributors that we have documents of, that are asking for an increase in one championship content. At the same time, one championship themselves are using your website as ads. They're literally using your articles as ads on Facebook. At the same time that Amy is auctioning off one championship memorabilia for Twitter followers. This, to me, is all just blatant, gross, unethical behavior. And the first crux of the argument was that she was part of the MMAJA, Mixed Martial Artists Journalists Association. She isn't anymore. Not due to this, but she said for another reason a while ago. And so in terms of an institutional thing or institutional... not punishment, that's a weird way to phrase it, but institutional sort of consequence for this unethical behavior isn't really there. However, again, I want to reiterate that the allegation that I have from on good authority, okay, that she has admitted to compensation from one championship, has not been disproven from her directly yet. And I will stay on that until further proof is provided, or any proof, honestly, is provided. And she made a really absurd and just flat out wrong claim that this was due to her being a woman and that I was targeting her because she's a woman. And brief thought on that. First off, again, wrong, not true, full stop. Just not true. If she wants to make the claim that I have not targeted or gone after male media members that have done this with one championship, it's because purely I haven't seen any. Not that there aren't. I'm talking about me personally on my timeline through my interactions, because I know Amy. I met her quite a few times at events. I have not heard any of the allegations from other specific media members that have taken this deal. What I do know is that one of my good friends was offered, and colleagues, was offered a same deal from one championship. Compensation for travel and lodging. You come over and have your content. And you just write favorable shit, right? Maybe they don't say that outright, but that's the assumption, right? We turned it down. We, meaning Sherdog. We turned it down. So this does happen. Saying that happens quite regularly. Saying that Amy has admitted that they have asked her to do that, or they have asked, or they have offered. One championship was offered for travel and lodging. She's admitted that to me. She's admitted that KSW has done that for her as well. So has Combatus. I believe. I know for sure KSW. She's admitted that to me. And whether or not you are a member of some journalist association, if you are a media member out there, and even if you're not a journalist out there, look, if you're taking compensation from a promotion, from a network, you should disclose that. It's really easy. And I'll be honest, no one really cares in this industry if you do that. Like, this is the big secret, guys. A lot of people, I don't know if it's a majority, I don't know if it's 10%, but 10% of media is still a lot of people, right? But there's a lot of people that take compensation from promoters, networks, managers, agents, etc. Whether it be in memorabilia, whether it be in direct monetary compensation. But if you just disclose that information, no one cares. Honestly. And even then, if you don't, nothing really happens. But at least have the common fucking decency to disclose that information. You know? And we move on. Because, for example, like when I worked for Name Redacted, and we got payment from Chivas Regal, which was a sponsor of Triple G at the time, we disclosed that information live on the show. We're like, hey, look, this is Chivas Regal. They sponsor Triple G. They're sponsoring us for the show. Just want to disclose that information. We move on. That's all you need to do. And again, I have it on good authority that Amy Kaplan, fan-sided, have received compensation, or maybe just Amy specifically have received compensation for access and travel to one championship cards. And I think on the whole, whether or not you're a male or female, you shouldn't be doing that. And whoever is out there doing it or has been alleged to do it, point them in my direction. Because everyone knows I don't give a shit about calling out people. I'll do that. Give two fucks about that. So please, Amy and others, if you're worried about me being sexist, which is a bullshit line to throw at me, then point me in the direction of these other people that are taking the dime, so to speak. Please. I'll gladly call them out. You're on my radar right now. So I'm talking about you. When other people get on my radar, I'll talk about them. Quite simple. And guess what? In the meantime, I'm still going to talk about all these serious issues that you have publicly said your outlet will not cover for budgetary reason. Digressing. Moving back to callers. Not Santiago. Gary in Dallas. Gary, what's up? Sorry, I had a rant about that, guys.
Yeah. A lot of times these media outlets are paid in form of, access. Mm-hmm. We'll give you access to your site. We'll give you access to these events if you say good things about us. The natural progression is that, fuck it, we'll cut the middleman. We'll just give you money, right? I mean, it's like college athletes. We'll pay for housing. We'll pay for dorm. We'll give you the money. It's kind of, I'm not justifying it. I'm just saying I'm not surprised.
No, exactly. I'm not surprised. Like, this is a normal thing in the industry. Like, I have been approached by promoters with some sort of deals and stuff. Everyone has. Like, if you've been in the industry long enough, you've been approached by promoters, managers, etc., to write content for them, or to make content for them, or to go interview this guy and write something nice. Like, that's been a line thrown at me a lot of times.
But that access comes with the caveat that you're going to write something.
Yes, absolutely.
You're going to say good things about us.
Even though 99.9% of the time that's not stated. Yes, you are right. Absolutely.
Right.
Yes.
It's assumed.
Absolutely,
right?
Yeah.
Like,
it's quid pro quo.
If you have a meeting with Texas and Texas A&M, and Texas gives you a car, and you take the car, it's assumed that you're going to Texas, right? You're not going to A&M because you just took the car. It's the same kind of mentality, right? You understand what I'm saying by that? Like,
yep.
I can't, but it's like, okay, I'm going to do this for you, and I have, your unwritten word, your unofficial word that you're going to do this for me. I wish it wasn't true, but it's the natural progression of things. Here, take money and say good things about us. Mm-hmm. But if you're doing that, let's be real, you're also not going to disclose that. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
you're gonna lie about
like
it.
here's the thing,
Because
you
it's gonna
can.
destroy-
Here's like people like you can. There's a whole industry. It's called being a publicist.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, and like there's tons of them in boxing media that I don't get along with at times, but they're mostly nice people. You know, and I get upset or annoyed by them because they go with the talking points and narrative, but that's their job. So like I get over it really fast. You know, like if you're getting paid to write content about something, you're gonna write about it's gonna be mostly favorable, most likely, and no one cares as long as you disclose the information. Honestly.
Right. And I like how you were reminded to go to this topic after I started talking about a Texas fighter. But no, you're right. Like, but if you're going to be a publicist, then you can't claim to be an objective journalist, right? You can't say I'm calling bull strikes if you're a publicist, because you're not. Right? Your job is to make someone look good, which is basically. And I don't know who Amy Kaplan is. I don't know her from a hole in the wall, right? But if that's obviously what she was doing, that's what she was doing. And it's hard to say. Like, she didn't to say that she didn't do that. She just said that you only came after her. Like, she didn't deny it, did she?
She denied it. She definitely denied it. But like, she gave me 3 different reasons as to how she got the money, all contradictory reasons. So I'm sorry. And then your documentation is just a receipt with your name that says paid in cash. That doesn't mean anything to me. Like, again, speaking as someone that got paid by a sponsor that was sponsoring a fighter, and we had to disclose that information, like our when I looked up my ticket stub for my airplane ticket, it didn't say who bought the ticket. It said my name. And like again, like I can easily retract all these statements if I just get some proper documentation. I haven't yet. It's easy.
Yeah, no, you should disclose it. Absolutely. And like, I give you credit for that, right? Like, Stevens Riggle, who was a sponsor of Triple G, gave you money. You open with that, right? Like, I'm not hiding that. That's what it is. And it is what it is, right? Like, but it's this thing where you're telling people you're being subjective, and then you're taking money from one of the parties. It's like, well, then you're not being subjective.
I mean, objective.
I mean, you're not being objective. You're being subjective, right? Yeah, absolutely. But to Davies-Ritson, real quick. Yeah, I thought up until he lost to Francisco Pantera that he was going to be good. Like, he was going to be a world-class, world title type fighter. That ain't the case. But he's still going to be fun. Like, I think he's a guy that can make a lot of money in the sport. Like, I think he's, he obviously has a fan base because he fights in an entertaining fashion. His fights are fun, but I don't see a very high. Like, I don't think he'll ever be a legitimate top 10.
No.
Junior welterweight.
No, he's the next Sam Eggington, and which is fine.
I think he's better than Eggington. Although Eggington looked good in the last fight, but yeah.
And Eggington has a better win.
What was that?
Eggington has a better win.
Eggington does have a better win. Although Eggington's young too, right? Like, Eggington's a lot younger than you think, isn't he?
I don't know his age.
I think he's like 26. Like, I think he's a lot younger than you think he is.
That's sad.
He's been around for so long.
That's fucking sad.
Yeah.
That makes me really depressed.
And the other fight, the Fitzgerald fight with
Cheeseman.
Who was that guy that was dressed up like Cheeseman? Where did that performance come from? Cheeseman, like, I thought Cheeseman was awful. Where did that boxing skill come from?
Gary, here's a little trick for you. All these guys are relatively on the same level.
I guess. I thought Cheeseman was levels below. Like, I thought that he was going to get outclassed and possibly stopped because he wasn't any good. I thought he was good.
Gary?
You don't think you haven't changed your opinion at all on Cheeseman, have you?
No.
No. This performance.
No.
Okay.
No.
All right. So you saw him fighting, like, you thought he could fight going backwards, moving laterally, jabbing. You thought
I thought he could put. I thought he could put on a scrap against Fitzgerald. Yeah.
Okay. I thought Fitzgerald was a potential perennial top 10 kind of guy who maybe if the chips fall the right way, he gets a belt at 54. And I thought Cheeseman was straight trash. And I thought Cheeseman won. Did you think Cheeseman won the fight?
I did not score it, so we're going to refrain from an opinion about that.
Okay. And that's all I got.
Thank you for the call, Gary. Drink some water there. Got like a parched throat. I can hear it. Going out to JP in Long Beach, who I think wants some round 2. JP, what up?
I had to throw it out there. You know, it seems like I'm the only dude in the boxing universe. You know I'm a conspiracy theorist, Matt. You know that.
Yes, I know that. Yes.
I just want to throw out there for everybody to start mulling over. I haven't developed this thought yet.
Oh, that's good.
But I think it's fair to say, and you correct me if I'm wrong, that there's 2 formats out there. So you have the Showtime PBC guys, and they're just going by fight-based incentive, right? You get paid for kind of who you're fighting and whose equity is highest, and just the regular old school stuff, pay-per-view, right? Pay-per-view
more of an old school paradigm, yes.
Right, and on the other side with Top Rank and ESPN and these guys in the Zone, you have a new format where it's subscription incentive, right? It's subscription based for fandom, right? Is that fair to say?
I'll say this though, like just with that definition, it's not different than the HBO Showtime situation because those are subscription based. They're not ad incentive. Unlike, let's say, Fox, that's an ad incentive platform. So when you get higher viewership, your ad revenue goes up for your commercials. Therefore, you're more profitable for the network. You get what I'm saying?
Okay. So I guess let's just get into the meat and potatoes of this because it's a little gray area there, what we consider the incentive. But one thing that is apparent, let's just start with like Canelo. Canelo has a contract where he's paid $30 million plus per fight, is what we're told, right? That's the common knowledge.
Yes, $35 million plus. Yes.
And you ask a guy like me, how is that possible? Fighting the guys who you're fighting, even Kovalev does not generate a $32 million paycheck. You know, I don't believe Kovalev generates Canelo getting a 32, and Rocky Fielding certainly doesn't, right? And so you ask how. Then you have Tyson Fury. He's being paid. He has a really fat contract over there at ESPN, and you ask how is his purse being paid? And then you even have a guy like Terrence Crawford who's fighting a dude named Green Machine, and I hear Terrence Crawford gets paid upwards to $6 million per fight, and you're asking how. So now we have to question how much is a subscription worth? Because unlike the pay-per-view format, we're always able to quantify how much did they make at the gate, how much did the pay-per-view buys make, what was the guaranteed purse, and what were the concessions and all these other revenues of money that a fighter could get. Quantifiable. Also made sure for the promotions that for the promotion to be paid and the fighter to be paid, the incentive was to make the best fight. That's where we always seen the climax of the sport at a pay-per-view, right? But the incentives was the pay-per-view makes the most money, so you get the best fight. That's where the two fighters had to both agree. In subscription, being that we were not able to quantify a stream, I feel like we've almost been duped as fans where they threw it out there to us and they said, look, guys, you get all this for free, $100 a year. But I just don't feel like the incentive to make the best fight is there because we're no longer able to quantify the worth. Like the math is skewed now. We don't know what a stream is worth. So if the Zone is picked up, let's say 1 million subscriptions, they may not have the need to say, Canelo, we need you to go fight, the whoever we want you to fight, Golovkin, whoever it is, because they've made their money back on a subscription. We as fans don't know how much that's worth. you know, and so I think it's a new math and new science out there that we as fans aren't privy to, and I don't know if fighters are privy to it either. And you see this across the board with artists. We don't know how much a stream worth. We don't know how much a subscription is worth.
I have some points about that, JP. And let me try to figure out how to frame it in my head, where to start. First off, I think obviously you've been listening to Joe Budden podcast a lot lately because you're taking this from how much is a stream worth. I can tell. I don't think it's as accurate as a subscription-based platform like DAZN or Showtime, because then it's subscriber. It's an easy equation. How many subscribers you have at what price per month times that. What does it equal? How many months are they subscribed? Okay, you add that up. Boom, that's how much money you're gaining. And how you can tell who's providing the subscribers is who's getting the views, right? So if you're DAZN, you're looking at your not your algorithms, but you're looking at your data and your analytics, and is Canelo getting more views? How many views is he getting? How many subscribers do we get that month that he's fighting? They look at that stuff. And per the Muhammad Ali Act, Canelo and other fighters should be privy to that information. That's that. So, like, for example, when you might be remembering the whole Canelo Golden Boy situation of open the books, right? That wasn't about his specific numbers. That was about Golden Boy's numbers with DAZN overall. He wanted to know what Golden Boy was making with DAZN, what their numbers was outside of him, so he can better quantify his worth with the rest of the company, with Golden Boy, not with DAZN per se, I would say. But in terms of fighters, they should know their specific numbers. Like, that shouldn't be an issue. Fighters should know they have the rights to TV numbers, and that would translate to streaming numbers. They would have access to that. That's their legal right. So that, again, that's not too much of a concern. But to your point, that's a greater point that I think is more that we can probably more weed into and discuss, was the aspect of incentive base. That the pay-per-view model, from just a pure instinctual way of thinking, is more incentive-based for fighters than the base pay model that we're hearing about with DAZN and even ESPN Plus in a way, obviously, right? I'm going to have an article out soon that's detailing all these numbers, these big pay increases for DAZN fighters, ESPN fighters, everyone across the board, how this economic bubble could burst. I have a big article coming out soon about this. But I do think that model, the new model, let's say, is perhaps a unsustainable model, but not necessarily for fighters. I think it's unsustainable for the networks, because I don't know if ESPN Plus, if DAZN are going to look at, after 3 years of investing into boxing, combat sports, or maybe just boxing specifically, and go, we're getting our money's worth. And that might be a big issue down the line. But that's entirely separate from the fighters and their incentive for big fights. And I don't know if that issue is as big of an issue as you think it is. I think it is an issue, because obviously, like, we're not getting Canelo Triple G because there's no pay-per-view incentive to make that fight. Canelo's...
We're not seeing Wilder Fury, too. We're not... that fight, who knows? Because Fury is just being promoted to other audiences, and it's like, what's the rush to go get him in a big fight?
Yeah, but the lucky thing about that, it's a Fox audience, so it's a similar audience. So he's being promoted by a network that is still a Wilder PBC network. I wouldn't be too concerned about that, to be quite honest. That's definitely going to happen the first half of next year. But I do think for, let's say, like, DAZN versus DAZN fighters, for ESPN Plus versus ESPN Plus fighters, what's the real incentive to go out of your depth to fight someone when you're all getting guaranteed contracts?
Yeah.
Short-term issue,
yeah.
But it is an issue, yes.
Let me throw one more before I go, Matt. Crawford, look, everybody's talking about, Errol should take him on, and whose fault is it? I'm looking at it like this, man. Errol's done a lot to raise the equity in his name. Crawford, not so much. Crawford's been on the scene longer, and I think it's a dropping of the ball over there on that side. It's just you have Fury being promoted well, amazingly.
But here's
he's
the thing.
crossing all kind of demographics.
To the point that you bring it up, yes, there's a slight difference between, like, let's say old platforms like pure ESPN and like Fox, even like Showtime to a degree, right? Versus DAZN, ESPN Plus, versus in terms of pay. Everyone across the board has received a ginormous pay increase, including Terrence Crawford. And again, the article that's going to come out is going to detail some of his purses and the percentage increase he got when he moved over to ESPN and started fighting on ESPN Plus. He got paid a lot more in this new paradigm. So to bring it back to your point about incentive, what's the incentive for Crawford to go and fight a Sean Porter even or a Danny Garcia when he's making $3 million plus on ESPN? When he's fighting on HBO, the HBO boxing, he's only making $1 million.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of my point, man. And I think Crawford has been promoted horribly.
Yes, he has.
I think with Lomachenko, we get to see him do all kind of cool shit, like hold his breath for like an hour underwater, and freaking Fury's coming out with mariachi bands. And what we get with Crawford, we get him and his drunk-looking ass mom looking like they want to kill each other. And that's what we get. Him and his drunk, crazy women family screaming in the corner, going wild. And that's the Terrence Crawford promotion. It's terrible. That's my call, Matt.
Thank you for the call, JP. Always appreciate it. Some quick questions in the live chat. No, I did not discuss that. Thank you for reminding me. Jamel Charlo paying for Patrick Day's funeral, man. Props to him, honestly. Like, big up to Jamel Charlo. There's also a GoFundMe. I know the link was put in the chat by Rob earlier. And Lou DeBella put it out. So if anyone wants to go donate a little bit of money to Patrick Day's family for the funeral costs. I know Jamel Charlo's helping out with the cost, but I think they're trying to go all out for this guy as probably he deserves. So go help out. And again, God knows what his family situation was like. I know he came from a good family, good money. I know. Listen to the Mark Kriegel interview with, I forget who it was after the passing. He detailed some of the upbringing with him and Joe Higgins and such. He comes from a well-off family, but still, go help any way you can. And again, shout out to Jamel Charlo, man. Mad props to him for helping out with the funeral costs of Patrick Day. Rest in peace. What else? Oh, PSK is in question. Did you have thoughts regarding the question on Benavidez or Smith? Would a Beterbiev, once they move up, being taller, Ranger, win by box, punching on the outside? No, I don't think those guys are actually the right styles for Beterbiev. I think they actually play into the wheelhouse of Beterbiev, and Beterbiev being the bigger, heavier hitter would actually probably have an easier time with them. Just being honest. I think, really, if you like the one guy there's two guys at 168 that theoretically could move up to 175 that are fantastic boxers that could give Beterbiev issues. I think one's too undersized, though, in Billy Joe Saunders, who already moved up from 160. But Caleb Plant, I think Caleb Plant could outbox Beterbiev potentially. He is that guy that could just outbox everyone. But Benavidez is a guy that walks straight into opponents, doesn't really have any lateral movement. Yeah, he's big and strong for 168, but at 175, I think he's going to be around the same size as Beterbiev, who has fought cruiserweights and the amateurs. So, yeah, I'm picking Beterbiev in that fight. And Callum Smith, I think, he doesn't have any versatility to his game to the level of Gvozdyk or even Bivol, in my opinion. I think Callum Smith is a real traditional boxer puncher. And while good hitter, accurate puncher, I think he has limited game, and I think I think Beterbiev is just the better fighter, period, to be honest. Like, almost go down every single category. I think Beterbiev is just the better fighter overall. But, guys, that's going to be it for today. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Going to be back later tomorrow, 2 p.m. Pacific time. Rob, Gary, maybe Fu, all on full panel What else? Joker review coming out. I should probably put up later today. It's done. It's in the can. El Camino review is recorded. That needs to be edited just a little bit. Carnival Row and It Chapter 2 reviews coming out in the next week. And what else? It's all coming out on Trending Now Network. Make sure you guys go over to mixedcombatradio.com, Mixed Combat Radio on patreon.com as well. All those links below in the description. The like button, share the show, subscribe, all that fun YouTube stuff. That's annoying, but actually really significantly helps out with the channel. Just hit that like button, please. It does nothing for you. It costs nothing. It's free and it's harmless. Just do it, please. Helps a lot. And find me, Matt Hunter, MCR, all platforms. And I think that's it. No callers. Everything's done. No more topics. And see you all tomorrow. Peace.